approved that Nebraska Medicine was involved in the early planning stages. So what has changed that's going to change the route, the starting point? And secondly, is this going to affect the overall initial cost of the streetcar?
Well, okay, the initial cost and the cost that we are still dealing with is what we just talked about right now, that is under construction, will be under construction, that the city will be responsible for. If Nebraska Medicine and HDR has been working with Nebraska Medicine, if they decide to move the streetcar into their campus, they have not decided yet where and which route and what it'll look like, and so we decided we would stop it a little further east than bring it up to 42nd Street because we're really not sure what design that they will actually settle on if they are going to move it into their campus. Now, if they do, that cost will be to the Nebraska Medical Center and to University of Nebraska. That won't be a cost to the city of Omaha if it moves into their campus.
Mayor, Mr. Donato mentioned that the project is on schedule. Wasn't there some delay in announcing the last half a dozen months or so?
I don't recall any delay.
Something got pushed back?
Not that I can recall.
Joe, it may be that.
Once if you answered, we'll probably need to come up here.
There really hasn't been any delay in the schedule of the project. There may be a number of things that have been put into a little bit of a different sequence as we've gone through the process, and more importantly as HDR and the Public Works Department have gone through the process. There were things that the sequence was just changed a little bit, but overall, we're on schedule.
Mm-hmm. And that schedule always has been that we were planning on starting construction in the spring of 2024, and I think, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are still on schedule to hopefully start construction in the spring of 2024 with completion in 2026.
Yeah, I might just add to that, the mayor's absolutely right. There will be utility work and things below grade that need to happen first. So those things will start as soon as really the weather permits in the spring. And we won't have actual streetcar route or rail construction for a little bit after that because the work below ground's got to happen first.
Mm-hmm. And I want to stress again, the reason that we wanted to give you this presentation today is because it is required, city code requires, after 30% design, which we have completed, that it goes to the Urban Design Review Board, and it has already been approved by the Planning Board. So then it goes to Urban Design Review Board. Our next milestone will be 60%, and then it'll go to 90%. And that's just how the design goes. Remember, once again, this is nothing new. We have been talking about a streetcar in Omaha for about 20 years now. So it's really good to see it finally happening and materializing. But things are going very, very well.
Mayor, will there be advertising on the actual streetcars themselves or at the stops or anything like that?
Jay, I'm going to ask Jay to come up again, but I will say we don't want advertising on the outside of the streetcars. There could be some on the inside of the cars, and there could be some also on the stations, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is typical throughout the country with similar type projects for there to be branding opportunities inside the cars maybe, but probably more appropriately where the stops are. And certainly only on a very special occasion, any kind of a wrap or anything on the exterior, but that would be something that would be very limited and have to be truly a special occasion for that to happen.
Keep in mind too, those streetcars which we're talking about made me think about this, is the bids have gone out. There's one manufacturer in the United States, the others are European. And so, they will vary from 120, 150 people per car. They're very expensive. I average around $6 million each. We need to buy 6. So this is a big step forward that we are going to go forward and order these cars because it takes a couple years, doesn't it, once you order them.
Any revenue that would come out of the advertising, that goes to the city, the general budget?
The revenue that would go
That would go back into operations.
I'm going to ask Bob Stubbe because I want to make sure that I don't make an error in what I'm saying.
So the construction of the streetcar will come from bonds. Operation of the streetcar will come from the Parking and Mobility Division. So when you pay for parking, whether it's in garages or whether it's at the meters, that revenue that's generated will be used to pay for the annual O&M related to the streetcar.
Including revenue from advertising.
Absolutely. That will all go into that enterprise fund.
Okay. Other questions? You could stick around, Bob. There you go. I want Bob to stick around because you got to keep in mind this too. This is a City of Omaha project. It's a public works project. And so Bob is the director of the Public Works Department.
Mayor, I wanted to piggyback off what Tom said earlier. So this kind of, what takes away 6 or 7 blocks by narrowing the route, doesn't that save money?
Oh, well, of course it will. I mean, it'll save money, but that's not the entire reason we're doing it. You know, we've always talked that this is the initial route. And when we first started talking about it, we thought, you know, 10th Street to 42nd Street. But as the design went on and then understanding other interests, including the Med Center, you know, we've always talked about, could we expand it to North Omaha? Could one of these days it go to the airport? You know, all of these things are under consideration, but you got to look at this as the initial route. So when the Med Center showed a lot of interest in bringing that and a lot of value for the streetcar to be going into their campus, we decided not, when they did not know where it would probably make a turn or how it would go into their campus, it made a lot of sense to stop at 39th Street and let that discussion between HDR and the Med Center continue until they decide. But we can always expand it. That's the beauty of it. But of course, the smaller it is, or the shorter the tracks are, it does save money, but that's not the only reason we're doing it.
So UNMC is on the hook for whatever it goes past 39.
If UNMC wants it to go into their campus, then they will fund it. It wouldn't be funded through the City of Omaha with the funding model that we are using. Yes.
Mayor,
Correct.
to extend into North Omaha, you mentioned $300,000 study. If that were to happen, is the idea to pay for that same process of paying for the original streetcar, the development along the route, all that?
You know, it probably not. And in fact, if we would extend it into North Omaha or maybe even one of these days to the airport, it's more likely that we will be using some federal funds, which we are not using for the initial route. But federal funds take a long time to apply for and to get, and so we are starting to plan right now.
Would any of that expansion come to the taxpayers?
Well, you know, right now we don't know. I mean, hopefully not.
Hopefully not.
We don't know. We haven't even looked at, we're just applying for a grant right now to look into the possibility of expanding it. But we certainly, you know, what we've said for the initial route is we figured out a funding model that did not require any type of a tax increase, and that's what we're sticking to. Jay, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I would just add, thank you. Any required funding for extensions beyond the initial route, particularly if there is a federal study that we're able to have happen, any future funding would be part of that study. So that'll come back and say whatever it says, but presumably it'll say we think the system ought to be expanded and here's where, here are the likely costs, and here is the funding model for that piece of expansion.
All right. Other questions?
I had a question about the wire, the on-wire and off-wire operations. Do you guys know yet where the car will be on-wire and where it will be off-wire?
Yeah.
Yes, based on the load flow study that we did for the 30% design, we have those regions defined, and those have been part of our car builder bid documents as well. They are subject to change once we have a selection with the final car and that car's requirements, but we do have the general zones identified. So just, you know, broadly speaking, on the eastern end of the alignment and near the park would be off-wire. Most of the downtown section would be on-wire. Once we go up the hill at Midtown, the uphill section would be on-wire, downhill's off-wire, and then Blackstone would be predominantly off-wire.
But all the cars can operate both on and off.
Correct. That's a requirement of the bid documents.
Do you guys have preference in the bids you've seen so far for
We haven't received any formal bids yet, so we'll let the process play out and see what proposals we receive.
Can you talk about the input you guys are doing there? Like, are you guys going to places that have these designs of streetcars? Like, what, are you guys visiting cities at all just to get a better idea of the streetcars that could be operating?
Sure. So the City of Omaha and the OSA is a member of the Community Streetcar Coalition, as an example. They do have summits around the country, and city staff have participated in some recent summits in Milwaukee and Oklahoma City.
If you go back to that slide, I don't know if you can, it shows the 4 streetcars. There you go. Nick can tell you where these are from. You
Sure.
want to point out, just for your interest here?
Yeah, and again, these are all images received by the car builders earlier this year. The upper left is from Brookville. That is a U.S.-based manufacturer. The upper right is from Stadler. They're European. And the 2 bottom images are 2 examples from CAF. So CAF, which are European. CAF is currently running in Kansas City and Cincinnati. Stadler does not have a U.S. streetcar currently, but they have a lot of streetcars and trams in Europe. And then Brookville is in a number of systems across the country. Milwaukee, Oklahoma City, Detroit, Dallas, some examples, Tempe.
Do you expect bids from all 4?
We expect numerous bids. It's an open process, so we'll see what we receive.
I'm seeing several different color schemes up here. Are those examples that we might see, or have you decided or thought about a color scheme at this point?
We have not. These images were provided by the car builders, so their artistic license is their own. They've prepared that themselves. Branding would be a future step of the OSA and the streetcar team, and that will help define the look of the cars as we go forward.
What about marketing? If somebody, seems like it's great if you're living in Blackstone, you just walk to one of the stops. But if you out west, you want to use the streetcar, is there a place in the park or in the area for them to be able to use the streetcar?
You think I get-
Yes, so the city has numerous parking facilities along the route. As Director Stubbe mentioned, parking revenues is part of the O&M payment method for the streetcar system. So connecting people coming from other parts of Omaha to the route, finding parking, and then getting onto the streetcar is part of the operating philosophy of the system.
For example, the City of Omaha will be purchasing the 3 parking garages that are currently at Midtown. And so the city will own and operate them. So, you know, if I live out in West Omaha, I could drive, park there, hop on the streetcar, take it all around wherever I want, downtown, go back to where my car is parked at Midtown.
Mayor, I know you've been having town halls. What do you tell people who maybe still aren't sold on the streetcar?
You know, thanks for the question, Alex. I've had 7 town hall meetings. The streetcar, surprisingly to me, wasn't a major topic or a question that people were asking us in all 7 city council districts. However, I will tell you that Steve Jensen, who works in my office as an economic developer, former planning director, he and I we're out on the road doing a 30-minute PowerPoint presentation about the streetcar. And I always ask at the beginning, how many of you have heard of the streetcar? Well, of course, everybody has. How many support it? It's a mixed bag. After we present it and show them the value of it, why we're doing it, how we're paying for it, and how it could be a great benefit to downtown Omaha, to the urban core, and everybody in Omaha, at the end, I will say, now who supports the streetcar? And usually, and Steve will agree with me, it's usually the majority of people there, if not everybody. So I think it's a matter of, we hope we can get out and do this more and more and explain how we're doing it, why we're doing it, what it's going to look like, what the value is, how we're going to pay for it, and that it won't require a tax increase. Then people say, I get it now. And I think it's really important, and Steve does such a good job of explaining what we have downtown now. And we have, come up here, Steve, because he will say 50% of downtown is surface parking lots. And at any given time, they're half full. And so, you know, we would much rather trade those surface parking lots for buildings and businesses and jobs. And that's one of the great benefits of the streetcar. Do you want to add into that?
I think you've said it well. Yeah, about 50% of the developable land in downtown is devoted to parking, and about half of that parking is vacant at any given point in time. So you have the opportunity to build billions of dollars worth of development on those now somewhat vacant parking lots, which is our goal. So we've looked at the projections, and if we continue down the path we have followed for the past 50, 60 years to accommodate the development that we anticipate coming to the urban core, we would need about 50,000 more parking stalls, half of which would sit vacant most of the time. And so on the blocks that would be consumed by those parking stalls would consume about 40 square blocks, but 6-story tall parking garages that pay nothing in taxes. Those same 40 square blocks would hold about $2 billion worth of development that would be taxable. So that's part of the goal.
And already, the streetcar hasn't even began construction, and we have approximately $1 billion worth of development that wouldn't have happened without the streetcar. And that is Mutual of Omaha's new skyscraper downtown, and that includes Mutual of Omaha's old campus in Midtown. Both of those are being built, the new tower, redeveloped the current site Mutual has, and that together is almost $1 billion worth of new development that would not happen without the streetcar. Our group went out, they visited other cities, they've studied other cities, and every city that we have visited that has built a streetcar, the development that occurred around the route has exceeded what the original estimates were.
Mayor, you haven't said yet if you're running for reelection.
No, I haven't.
If you thought the next mayor might try to stop the streetcar, would that make you more likely to run?
You know, if I decide to run or not, it's not going to be based on the streetcar or who else is running or who my opponent can be. It will be a personal decision of mine, and I will make up my mind, and I will announce after the first of the year.
After the first of the year?
After the first of the year, I certainly will.
Or February?
But I don't know. That's my birthday month. Why? Is that significant to you?
No, I just, no, after the first of the year, then, October.
No, it'll be after the first of the year. We got plenty. It's 17 months away. We've got plenty of time to decide. But I think whether anybody is going to run for mayor or not, that is a personal decision. But for the voters, that decision is who is the one that is going to keep the momentum going that we have now so we can continue to meet the goals that we have been meeting. That's what the voters are going to be concerned with.
Do you have any concern that voters might want to stop the streetcar?
Well, no, I don't.
Why the first of the year?
Well, it's 17 months away. You know, I look when I've run 3 times before, and for me, there's no hurry to announce at all. I got a big job to do right now, and I'm really busy with it, and so I will certainly make up my mind and let everybody know, but it's not going to be before next year. Other questions?
Back to the streetcar, we've seen crews out working to find utility lines. Is there any sort of update on that, or where they're at with that?
Yes. Nick? Okay. See, I want to have the right people answer these questions, so.
Yeah, we're looking to wrap up the potholing effort this week, actually.
And explain what you mean by that, please.
Sure.
The
So,
potholes.
so potholing, for the last year, we've been doing a lot of outreach with the utilities in the corridor, receiving their as-built drawings, surveying surface features, manholes, valves, those type of things. But as we work closer to finalizing design and starting construction, having some more understanding of what's happening below the pavement is very valuable. Helps with planning, helps with understanding what are truly conflicts versus what are utilities that might be able to remain as is depending on their depth. So the project partners have identified over 600 locations where we wanted to have additional information about what the existing utility was, where it was actually located, and how deep. And so that program's been going for about the last month, a little more than the last month. And again, that's wrapping up here this week. So that information will be shared with our design team. It'll be shared with the utilities themselves so they can help make some decisions about their infrastructure needs going forward.
Is there anything interesting found with following? I know previous cities, when they dig up things down earth, some hidden secrets or anything.
Sure. I think by and large, the as-built information we had was fairly accurate, which is a good sign. Obviously, there's always some, discrepancies, and that's why we went through the program. Getting better depth information has been very helpful. And then we found more information about the existing street, kind of the makeup of the street. It's quite a bit more varied than initially assumed. We found some of the old streetcar tracks, which is all helping to inform the design and that work phasing.
In your talks with Nebraska Medicine, are you optimistic or pessimistic or neutral on the idea that it will go to Nebraska Medicine? How far along are you in the talks, and when do you think it essentially made it?
Well, HDR is working with, independently from what the city of Omaha is doing. Do you want to comment, or Matt, do you want to comment? Okay, or Jay? I've got a
Yes, I'll
I have a whole
comment on that.
committee here today.
I can say this, I think we're very optimistic that the medical center would like to take advantage of the streetcar. I'm certain of that. Exactly where it goes, what route it takes, remains to be seen. As you all know, over the course of the last several weeks, more buildings have started on their campus, and those things all matter. It has to do with what side of the road it goes on, and do we come down the hill, or just which direction do we take? Does the route take? They're very engaged in this, and I believe that in the weeks ahead, or the months ahead probably, they'll pick a route that is ideal for them, and then there'll be a whole nother round of discussions relative to design, and they'll put their own funding plan together.
Is there a date at which the streetcar can't be stopped?
Boy, you are persistent this morning.
I know,
Joe.
I know. Can't be stopped. I've said this before, that all of the votes and the approvals that we needed to move forward with the streetcar have been done by the city council in open meetings. They also have already given approval for the finance director to start issuing bonds. And so at this point in time, no pun intended, it's full speed ahead. So again, the votes that we needed to move forward have been done by the council. It does not, and I've said this many times, require a public vote. There will be no tax increase, no property tax, sales tax, new taxes. So it's not appropriate for a public vote. So things are moving ahead.
Just to put a finer line on this. So we get to the spring election 2025. Obviously, there's been construction done. Track might be laid. I don't know. Could the next mayor say, no, we're not going any further with this thing?
I'll tell you, in my opinion, no. But then look at the value is what we are talking about. I wouldn't even contemplate why somebody, when it was under construction, when a finance plan has been developed and it is underway, why somebody would come in and want to stop it. It would be beyond my
Because they've seen a
comprehension.
poll that says 70% of the people don't want it.
Well, I don't know about that poll, because we're not, those polls out there are not always accurate, Joe, and you know that. And so, what a poll says now, like I said, if I talk to a group of people and I say, who supports the streetcar, and they half of them say they don't, and then when we get done explaining it, they do. I mean, that's the big difference. Think about this. When we built the new ballpark, people were against it. I've had people say, I will never go to another ball game. When we built the Arena Convention Center, waste of money. When we built the Dodge Expressway, don't need it. Not ever going to drive on Dodge anymore. When just most recently, the parks downtown. I had so many people write me and say, don't mess up the Jean Leahy Mall. I'll never go there again. The first weekend all three parks were open, August 18th weekend, they estimate over 75,000 people visited the park. People generally don't like to see change, and the first question they will ask is, how is this going to benefit me? And then they see, when it is completed, how it benefits them and how it improves the entire city and how it benefits the entire city. People love the new parks, and it will only make downtown Omaha better. So I look at the streetcar the same way. It's something new. It's something people haven't tried before. It's a lot of people out west will say, well, how am I going to use it unless it comes out to my neighborhood? And so I think once it is built and once people understand and enjoy it and see the benefit and see new jobs come into downtown and see new businesses come in, they're going to feel the same way they did about the ballpark, the Arena Convention Center, the Dodge Expressway, and the parks. And I could go on and on and on.
If you build it, they will come.
That's what we're hoping. And you know, I hate to put you on the spot, but Heath Mello is here, who's the new president of the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce. And what is their main focus is jobs and economic development and businesses. And I just want to know, maybe you would want to say a few things about downtown. I want to give you the opportunity, although I don't want to put you on the spot there.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to be here today. And as the Mayor made a great argument that the Greater Omaha Chamber of Commerce has been making well before my time, which is Omaha needs to grow and Omaha needs to focus on the future. And part of that is the city's urban core master plan that was unveiled in roughly March 2022 that seeks to create 30,000 new jobs and bring 30,000 new residents to the city's urban core. And I think you heard today, both from the mayor, I think from HDR, from Jay Noddles, the Streetcar Authority, that plan is partially driven by the real opportunities that the modern streetcar bring day in and day out. So if we're going to be a city of the future, the modern streetcar is taking us there. And as I talk to CEOs every day across this city, as we're trying to recruit new companies to come to Omaha, they want an environment and they want an urban core that keeps and attracts young professionals and the talent of the future. And so I want to applaud Mayor Stothert, her administration, for taking bold leadership to see this through, to engage the community in sometimes tough conversations, and to win over converts. And the reality, which is if we're going to be a city of the future, as the mayor just said, we're going to have to progress, and this infrastructure project is truly going to be the lightning rod to be able to do that into the future.
You support the streetcar?
100%, Joe. I think this modern streetcar, before I came to the Greater Omaha Chamber in August, I got to spend some time in Kansas City, travel the Kansas City streetcar, and I can tell you, as someone with a young family who all my kids got to get on it, we got to travel the whole route, get off the tracks. It was a great experience, and I think that's exactly what the city has identified and seen as they've traveled and visited other streetcar cities, that this is something that brings people to urban cores, brings people and connects people to businesses. And I think to some extent the Greater Omaha Chamber has been a huge supporter of this effort as part of our urban core work. But I think the mayor said this earlier, this is a conversation that, once again, we'll keep having with anybody around Omaha, with the mayor, Steve Jensen, the chamber. We're there to help remind businesses and our members that while this is in the urban core, it's going to impact the entire city. And a strong urban core will drive our regional economy into the future.
When you ran for mayor, remember, you were for it, then you were kind of against it?
You know what? I'll let him answer, but I'm going to answer first. We're not living in the past. I mean, you know, we know this. Cities never sit still. They either go forward, move forward, or they decline and fall behind. And we are not going to be one of those cities that is going to fall and decline and fall behind. So living in the past or anything that was said in the past is nothing that I even want to bring up right now. We gotta live in where we are right today and move forward. Bring the city forward. Now.
I think the mayor said it perfectly. I think,
You were wrong 4 years ago?
Joe, I've been wrong a lot in my life,
Yeah,
I can tell
so
you.
have I know.
And I can tell you, the Greater Omaha Chamber has enjoyed a long-standing, productive, healthy relationship with the city, particularly with Mayor Stothert and her team. When I took over this role, any past statements, any past views I may have had, it was personal views I had in the past. The reality is I'm 100% behind this project. The Greater Omaha Chamber is 100% behind this project. And part of my job in selling Omaha, not just to our companies and our residents here in the region, in selling Omaha to cities across the country, is this project. This project is part of that future that the mayor walked us through, and I'm proud to be part of her team in this effort to make sure that this project goes according to plan, not just in regards to the urban core, but selling this to companies and cities across the country.
The question for you and the mayor, what do you guys think about the development happening along the streetcar route? From what I understand, a lot of it is housing. Is that the best use of the space along the route?
Well, I don't know. Did you want to say something?
I'll let you go
okay.
first.
No, it could be housing, and hopefully a lot is housing. You know, the great benefit when you're building housing there. And it, again, it doesn't affect single-family, multifamily, triplexes. It's only revenue-producing commercial property along the route that their value will go up because of the streetcar. Okay, so hopefully it will be some residential along there, because that's what we see along streetcar routes, because it can, you know, these people that say around the med center, they may not need a car at all. We know that a lot of the new tenants down at the Brick Line down on 10th Street, they're going to be working at the med center. Think about that. They can hop on the streetcar and take it down to the med center in the morning. And so it will be, but there'll be commercial too along the route. There always is. And it just makes it easier for people to get around. Now, we know a developer that owns a lot of property, probably west of 19th Street on Farnham on the north side. I got to stop and think. A lot of surface lots along there. He is waiting to see if we're going to do a streetcar. He said before, if we don't do a streetcar, he may build a couple-story apartment buildings along there, because he has to spend a lot of money building parking and garages too. If we put the streetcar along Farnham Street, he's going to build something much higher, maybe a 7 or 8 story building, because he doesn't have to build as much parking. He's going to take advantage of the streetcar. And that's where that residential along the streetcar route becomes so important. So, and of course, you know this before, but the amount of revenue that we are very confident that we will get along the streetcar route, and that's 3 blocks and then 6 blocks, will more than cover the cost of the construction of the streetcar. And the additional revenue can be used on other street projects like bike lanes, and it could be used for affordable housing.
Can I give you an opportunity to respond to that as well? What do you think of the development happening along the route?
I think the mayor captured it, and captured it perfectly, in the sense that we're looking at commercial and residential development across the entire urban core area. And I think that's the most important point that we shouldn't take our eyes off of, is that the city did their due diligence of ensuring that the financing model and mechanism would generate enough property valuation growth over a number of years, both in commercial and residential, to cover the cost of the construction of the streetcar. So yes, as a Greater Omaha Chamber, we want to see clearly more residential developments. I would reinforce there is a focus on market rate residential focus, though, in terms of growing in that base. The mayor is right. There's affordable units, workforce units as well incorporated. But the reality is that the top line component is the growth itself is what drives this opportunity. And we're excited to be able to see both commercial growth, but also the residential growth that clearly we want to see a densified urban core area. And the city's work is helping achieve that.
Let me bring up one other point here that I think is important to make, and that is we want to attract new businesses, obviously, to Omaha. A challenge that we have in Omaha, which is a double-edged sword, and the state of Nebraska as a whole, is we have an extremely low unemployment rate. You know, you hear people say if you don't have a job in Omaha, you're not looking very far, because there's jobs everywhere. We have such a low unemployment rate. So then we say, if we're going to bring new businesses in, are they going to look at what is our labor pool? Is there enough people that I can hire? So then we look at, what do young professionals want? What do these businesses want? Why would they move here? Well, let me tell you what they want. They want urban living, young professionals. They want walkability. They want public transportation. They want open spaces. They want entertainment. They want affordable housing. That is exactly what we are doing in our urban core. And that's what the Urban Core Committee focused on, and that's what we are doing now. So we are making this environment, especially in our urban core, more attractive to bring to businesses here, because they want to know if we have the we have the labor here that they can hire. And so that is exactly what our goal is. Yeah, you bet.
If the University of Nebraska Medicine joins on, we're going to have a season, we talked about the same hours, the possible systems with, 10 shifts and different times of day.
I think anything's possible. If the hours of operation, is that what you said? You know, a lot of that depends on what's going on, the weather. You know, if there's College World Series and a lot going on downtown, they may be running later into the night than if it's 20 below and there's a blizzard outside. But certainly If the Med Center decides to expand into their campus, you know, all of those things have not been decided yet, and so that work will continue. But we wanted to make our streetcar route in that western terminus in such a place that if they wanted to expand, they certainly can. But again, that will not be a cost, an additional cost to the city of Omaha. Other questions? You've all sat down, so I guess you're worn out right now. You got a lot of people here to answer questions if you have any more. All right, well, we'll wrap it up. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. I know you have the press release that we sent out. I think it's sent out. You all have copies of that. And so thank you all for coming today. Appreciate it.